If you're not doing at least one thing a week, where you're kind of scratching your head, like, why am I doing this? Or other people are kind of questioning you, and it's just something really uncomfortable. It should be on everyone's mind at least once a week to really do something uncomfortable. You know, never say no to if someone's asking you to do a speech at bar mitzvah or like a funeral, or like that's really uncomfortable, but you're gonna get rewarded for that, and that counts. So do something uncomfortable once a week, because I always like to say I'm trying to live my life from like a deathbed perspective. I don't want any what ifs on my deathbed. Like hell to me is me on my deathbed meeting the me that could have been.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. Very excited about my guest today. But before I introduce him, I just want to say thank you for supporting this podcast in any way that you do. Please engage on YouTube, subscribe, rate me on Apple Podcasts positively, hopefully. This is a voice of hope, inspiration, and awakening in a world that is hungry for hope, inspiration, and awakening. And every one of my guests helps us with our hope, inspiration, awakening. Today, my guest is Justin Shaw, and he's an author, a survivor, a mystical comedian, and sorcerer who's passionate about empowering people to heal, thrive, and manifest their highest potential. A little bit Deepak and a little bit Tupac. With his sharp comedic edge, he challenges the status quo and empowers people to wake up, unplug, and live their truth. I love that. Okay, so his new book is called Sorcery 101, and that is spelled Sourcery, as in sorcery. 13 rungs to a higher elevation of consciousness. And this book provides actionable step-by-step plan for sourcing a spiritual revolution. I love that. Welcome, Justin.
Hi, good to be here.
I just love the idea of spiritual revolution without even knowing what it is. I feel like I'm in.
That's sourcing a spiritual. That's what sorcery is about. Sourcing a spiritual revolution. It's yeah. Oh, we'll get into it.
We sure will. But let's start with some rapid fire questions so we can just kind of get to know you a little bit as a person. So I would be interested in your favorite, or one of your favorites, if you can't pick one, films. What's your favorite film?
Yeah, I'm an absolute pop culture geek. The book is loaded with pop culture. It's hard to choose one, especially with genres. I would say like Fight Club is probably my most favorite. But then there's lists of all kinds of movies. The Dark Knight is amazing. And then you get in comedies, Big Lebowski and Anchorman. I love Will Ferrell stuff, and so it's hard for me to obviously choose one, but there's a kind of short list for you.
There's a top 4 or 5. Yeah. I'd be interested in talking about Fight Club. That's an interesting one.
Oh, I think it is my top greatest movie ever.
Yeah. Mine's Groundhog Day. That's my top of all time.
I mean, you can't go wrong there either.
You can't.
You can't.
It's the best. It has so many spiritual themes. I just love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, back on you. Do you have a phrase or a mantra that you choose to live by?
A phrase or mantra, I would say, knowledge comes from books, but wisdom is sourced. I like that one.
Okay. I love that. I also think Rage Against the Machine works.
Rage Against the Machine works too. I mean, don't stand for it. Goats over sheep. We'll get into that one.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. I think knowledge comes from books, but wisdom is source. This is something we can talk about in a few minutes. All right. So I would like for you to tell us about a historical person, not someone in your life, but someone in history, either someone you know or don't know, that inspires you or has inspired your life in some way.
Someone from history, would you say? Or like dead or alive?
Well, that's a good question. Let's pick some dead people.
Okay. I
Really
mean,
historical.
yeah, no, I would let's see. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, Tesla, I would go with um, like Marcus Aurelius, these great
Oh, wow.
mind thinkers. Uh Jesus is a big one. I'm not a Christian. I don't think Jesus is either, honestly, but we can get into that too. I think Jesus wants peers, not followers, but he's definitely a big one up there. All these kind of great minds and thinkers that I really admire and respect, and you just kind of look at and it's like, how does a
Yeah.
human do these things? Like they just
Yeah, kind of
really,
superhuman. Yeah.
yeah, they,
Okay, so
yeah, original
Tesla.
sorcerers. That everyone I know are
Okay. All right.
original sorcerers. So it's
Marcus
those are
Aurelius.
all
Yeah.
those are
Jesus.
all people that just, I mean, Gandhi's up there, and all these amazing,
Well, they would make for a very interesting dinner
yeah,
to have them all at your table.
it would be a really chill dinner, and it would be a dinner I'd never want to end.
Right, right. It's hard to know how much you'd engage versus just sit back and, listen to these guys talk.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
absorb everything I could.
And I'm sure, you know, there's got to be a woman in there somewhere, but we'll work on that.
Yeah, I'd have to especially historically, because women were just kind of
Yeah,
kept in the corner historically. So like it's
right, right. I mean, you've got
there
people like
are,
Queen Elizabeth,
yeah, Joan of Arc,
but
and but it's unfortunate they were kind of kept in what they thought was their place, which is ridiculous. But there's a lot more now than there is historically, I think.
right, right. Yeah. It would certainly be interesting to talk to the women who were in all of those men's lives too, because, they were certainly a part of their movement. So,
Oh yeah, big time.
okay. Yeah. So those are my questions. Thanks for that. And why don't we get into your background and your spiritual story? You've alluded to it a little bit, but tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of get into sorcery.
Yeah, so I am from Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona. Born and raised here. I've lived in other places, but this is definitely home base. Um, I My childhood was difficult in that it was kind of an emotional vacuum I lived in, and it's kind of important to know, like, so there's big T trauma, with a capital T, and that's kind of these knee jerking events that happen in our lives, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and things like that. And I've had my share of those, but they were more and older. There's a couple things happened as a kid, but the main thing that happened to me was this little T trauma. And that's this slow burn trauma of just no sort of emotional uh, vulnerability in the home. Like, nothing was talked about. Everything was kept secret. Nothing ever was talked about. There were family secrets, and anything that was remotely vulnerable or needed to be talked about never was. So, and that was just who my dad ended up not being around as much, and even if he was, his vulnerability level is nil as well. So it really wouldn't have made much of a difference even if he was around. So, it was I gravitated towards movies and TV and video games, and these were my world. This is what made me happy. So there is a lot of that in the book, and we talked about there's just tons of pop culture, because this I kept that as I got older, because that was the one thing that made me happy. Because when you're not, I mean, I wasn't ever, the word love was not used in my home at all. So I had an extremely strange relationship with it, in that I couldn't say it because it was never said to me. So I could never say it. I didn't know what it was. I had a completely confusing relationship with it. This all screws with a child's mind big time. And that really led to some really tough times in my 20s. And there's a lot of drugs and just running amok. There was, I've spent plenty of times of several rehabs and jails, and spent nights on park benches getting kicked out of, sober livings, and it was not a fun time in my 20s at all. So that kind of is the basis for everything. And I've gone back and forth spiritual wise. I finally found something in when I went to rehab. I guess it was the second time, was more of a faith-based rehab. And I kind of had my come to Jesus moment and gravitated towards that, which I was in, I was kind of doing the Christian thing for a solid probably 8 years or so, and doing AA as well. And they kind of go hand in hand together. AA is kind of a disguised Christianity. And so that I was doing that, and it just really was not, I was sober, but the whole thing with religion is there's a lot of suppression with religion. They don't, it's about, you are a powerless human being and separate from God, and let us do all the God work. You need to come to us, and we're your connection. You have no connection to it. And this whole suppression of people, which is why Jesus would want nothing to do with it. So they, once I kind of started waking up and I had these moments in meditation, and I was doing a lot of the things that in the book, there are a lot of shadow work and these moments of realizing that, this is not what I thought it was, that this amazing healing moment that I experienced in this rehab actually came from me. It had nothing to do with, it's a very dangerous moment when you have this awakening, because now you're like, what just happened? How do I get more of it? And whoever's around you is the one, it happens in cults. They'll tell you, well, the leader is the one that has that power. And or in religion, they'll tell you, the dogma has the power. You need to come to church and give your money and suppress yourself and, find this feeling again. And I never found it again in religion. So, and find it all the time now because it came from me. This experience could have had the same thing if I thought, Batman was my savior. It would have the same. It's this inner belief in yourself and what you are that really opens you up to this universal consciousness, this source. So, going back and forth that and just finally like leaving that kind of behind is what really, and that was part of the shadow work and just getting, like leaving a lot of that behind and opening myself up more and more. And I've had, just insane experiences in meditation where I realized that, first of all, the illusionary nature of reality. This is not the end of things. This is a training ground. It is a training ground for love. If you think of kind of a simulation, this is a training ground for love. It's a simulation. Like if you think of a flight simulator, you're in there, you learn how to fly a plane, and then you take those skills to the real world and fly the plane. Well, this is not the real world. This is very, it's a training ground for love, because love is transcends space and time, and it is what we will leave here and we will bring with us. So everything in our daily lives should be, how can I get better at this love thing? Because that's what we're training to do. So I started getting these messages, and it was just this moment of insane. It was a bliss attack. I've had panic attacks my whole life from anxiety and all these things, and it was a bliss attack. There was an onset of love instead of panic. And for 3 hours, I just sat in this drug free. There's no drugs. This was just an experience I had, and it just was onslaught of all these amazing feelings. And while at the same time, I realized I had been on airplane mode my whole life, and all of a sudden, airplane mode was disabled, and all these truths and realities started coming in, because a phone perpetually on airplane mode isn't going to live up to its potential ever. So all of a sudden, all these things started coming in, and I knew they were truth because of how I was feeling at the time. And it just was put me on this path. It's like, here's things you're gonna do, and this is where you're gonna go. And this was all around the same time of, having horrible traumas happen in my adult life. Lost my mother, I lost my sister, I lost a close childhood friend. I went through a fiance just left me and took our infant son and moved across the country, and then just cut me out of their lives just completely. I haven't seen him in 2 years to talk to him or anything. So like these are horrible events that were happening at the time of this awakening, like coinciding, and just like, and so it was a matter. The book is very meta because it's like me going through my healing experience and writing these things and creating this thing for me, while also realizing at the same time that this could be a huge benefit to a lot of people and really change some lives. So that was a long-winded answer, but that's kind of, it's hard to keep it short when you talk about, what's your spiritual background, because there's a lot to it.
Yeah, everyone's got a long story, but thanks for sharing that. Okay, so I want to flesh out some things in what you said because, first of all, I want to acknowledge the capital T versus small t trauma because I think that what happens with people is if they don't have the capital T trauma, you said you had some of that, but not everybody has some of that. And so some people think they just diminish the stuff that's happened to them in their lives because it was small t trauma. And small t trauma also definitely adds up and impacts us and causes us to put things in our shadow and impacts our lives. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Definitely love the bliss attack. And I also just love the idea that many of us are walking around in airplane mode. I haven't heard that metaphor before.
Exactly
You
what it
know,
is.
it's a
Yeah.
really, really good metaphor for, being alive and kinda operating, but you're not really bringing anything in or sending anything out. It's an interesting kind of zombie world, but I like the phrase "airplane mode." Can you tell us a little more about the bliss attack? Like, how did that come on? Is it something that just kinda came onto you? Or was it like a gradual thing through meditation?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a crazy experience. And it was, you think it was happening during, I was meditating at the time and also doing a lot of the shadow work. I'm sure we'll get into that. But just the deconstructing of beliefs I had about the world and of myself while also doing a lot of meditating. And meditating is kind of like mining the subconscious, and things come up and things get, all kinds of stuff happens. So I was doing a lot of that for the first time in my life. I was doing that stuff. So, and this moment actually was, I was just getting back from the gym, and I was kind of doing a post workout stretch. I wasn't even meditating at the time, and it just kind of came on, and just all this stuff started happening, and I realized, it's like, we're living in a sea of consciousness, and much like fish. If you ask a fish about the water they swim in, they're gonna say, "What water? What are you talking
What
about?"
water? Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's in, there's Akasha. There's so many names for it. Akasha, God, yeah, there's just so many names. Even science has a name for it. It's dark matter. I'm not a big fan of that one because it feels nefarious. It's like I feel like I'm the dark matter. Like this is the light. This is good stuff. But it is everywhere and surrounds us at all times, and it can be tapped into, which is what happened with this book. I was able, after this first experience, and once you're off airplane mode, you're off. You don't need to worry about ever it turning back on again. It is off for good. And it is like a fish living in a pond its whole life, and then all of a sudden being caught and ripped out by an angler, and like, what is this? Like, you there's this whole other majestic world, and there are lots of lakes, and this other, what is going on? I mean, what does a fish feel like in that moment that's lived in a pond its whole life? It must be incredible, and that's what it felt like. So it's very hard to explain. So it would be like it would be like trying to explain, like sticking a fork in the electric outlet and like experiencing that electric shock, and then trying to explain that to someone that lives in the jungles in the Amazon. Like, how do you explain that to someone that's never, doesn't even have a concept of electricity? It's the same thing. I can't put words to it. But it is a field of information that can be tapped into, and it is what created this book. So this book is simply ancient wisdom that I tapped into, that was filtered through my experiences, my subconscious, and came out of my fingers. So it is wisdom as old as life itself, that's been here, that is information that always was, and everything. It's so, and then it just got filtered through my experiences, my hard experiences, my humor, the pop culture. So it's all just ancient wisdom that's just brought into, kind of today's world, for the I tried to get it to kind of be kind of laugh, think, feel. One of those three things needs to happen at every moment in this book. Otherwise, I'm going to lose people's concentration, because our concentration is shattered. It's Generation TikTok. It is shattered concentration. So in order to get people to like actually read it and stick with it, I have to laugh, think, feel, and that's, so I just rotate through those three things throughout the book, and yeah, but it is this field. It is the field. It is the unified field. It is source energy, and that's where sorcery came from. It is separates itself. If you if you want to turn your roommate into a frog, or like there's no cauldrons or eye of newt needed for this kind of sorcery. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I'm sure there's books out there for that too. But this one, yeah, you got to start here. This is clearing up old. I think if you want to be an actual sorcerer, you got to clear up this old energy anyways, because it gets in the way. Trauma just it sits in our frontal lobe and just clouds it, and it's just, we have so many traumatized people walking around that have dumpster fires for life, or just can't, they can't think because it's just all clouded right here. And this is where your judgment comes from, your personality, the thinking, everything. And that's just where trauma sits. So this is about clearing that up.
I love that. And I love that you talked about deconstructing beliefs, because to me, that is such an important part of the spiritual path. Either awakening to this amazing field of energy, and or who you really are. We have to deconstruct our beliefs, and we have to start by realizing that we've been filled with a lot of beliefs. Like, there's so many programs that we're living, that are being played either in our mind or handed to us through generations, religion, schools, media, whatever. And those beliefs are like the water to the fish. Like, we can't even see them. We're on automatic. And so the fact that you had to go through this period of deconstructing your beliefs, that was part of your awakening process, I think it's so very, very important.
Yeah, that's the shadow work. I can discuss that. That's the first rung for a reason. They're rungs too. There's 13 of them. I should go over that. So there's 13 rungs, much like a ladder. So I had all this information in my head, and I had to think of a way to make it make sense and like structure it. So I thought of like kind of the 12 steps of AA is like, yeah, but I'm not, like moving forward is good, but moving up is better. So they're rungs, because a bird has a better perspective than a worm. So they are rungs up, and then there's 13 of them for a very specific reason, which gets into the shadow work. 13 is a number in society that we've decided is unlucky uh,
Right.
for actually there's really not a good reason at all. I've looked it up, and the one thing that jumps out the most is that there were 13 people at the Last Supper, and Judas was considered the 13th one, or some ridiculous. So there's no
And he
there's no
wasn't.
reasoning behind it at
It's
all.
it's a it's a belief to deconstruct.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's why I had 13, right? Like it's to the point where we don't have 13. There's no 13th floor in hotels. It's just
I know.
stupid and
I know.
ridiculous, and there's no reason for it.
I know.
13
And
is
Friday the 13th
actually,
is supposed to be a bad luck day. It's like, oh
yeah,
gosh.
it's all crap. It's actually a number associated with the divine, and it's supposed to bring good luck and prosperity to those who embrace it. So there's 13 for a specific reason, and that is part of sorcery. Is that shadow work is deconstructing old beliefs, things that you hold true that might not be true, and that's what the shadow work is about. The shadow is something that's created when a soul is broken. It creates a shadow, and it's kind of the reactionary part of us that causes issues a lot of times. So it is that old energy that's kept in there that releases itself when we're not aware of it. And the shadow itself is you are not the shadow, you are the awareness of the shadow. So it's important to know the shadow is just, it was created at a time in our lives that we needed it, but like I've found out that I do not need this anymore. It is a set of both our childhood traumas, or traumas in general, childhood, adult, and limiting beliefs. It's those two things
Mhm.
combined and creates this other side of us that is the shadow. And I don't, it is a side I try to love, but I keep in the back seat. I like to say that there's a car. A lot of people's their shadow is driving. Their shadow is driving, and their life is just an absolute crazy mess, dumpster fire. Their shadow is the divine part of them has stepped aside, and the shadow is now in charge. And we know people out there, and there's all kinds of celebrity meltdowns, and you can see these things and these shadows taking over of their lives. And then there's the shadow in the passenger side, which still isn't good because it's got too much involvement in your life. There's still like
It's navigating.
you've got your shit together, but like it's still causing issues. Maybe it's someone that has a good job and everything together, but they can't keep a relationship for the life of them, and it's because their shadow is talking to them, and it's still got their attention. Where you want your shadows in the backseat, because you can't get rid of it. It is even if it's someone who doesn't understand the shadow, maybe they haven't had a lot of trauma happen to them. Your shadow is dormant, and that's good. That's where you want it. It's in the back seat. You just check on it every now and then. How you doing? Doing good back there? Okay, cool. So I created my shadow. I named it Floyd. And again, we're getting back into pop culture because Floyd is from the movie True Romance, and it is Brad Pitt's small cameo character. And he basically just plays this stoner that has, is the main, one of the more central characters is the homeowner. And Floyd, Brad Pitt's character, is just this loser that just sits on the couch. He doesn't pay rent. He doesn't do chores. He just sits on the couch and gets stoned and just adds nothing to the life of, but the owner loves him like a brother. So the owner's not going to kick him out because he just loves him too much. But the fact is he adds nothing to the owner's life at all. And that's Floyd for me. That is this thing I love him like a brother, but he doesn't add anything to my life. But I check on him, and he was created there in a time of my life when I needed him, but I don't need him anymore. So I just check on him in the back seat. How you doing?
Don't you have to like give him water and food from time to time? Otherwise, he's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want to deal with in society, I've found that Eminem has the best way of dealing with his shadow. He has the most healthy relationship of anyone I can see with their shadow. He has named it Slim Shady. He knows it is not him. He knows that these feelings are still there, and so he raps about these things that he thinks about, and he processes through them, and that's how he processes through his horrible childhood, terribly traumatic, and of course it created a shadow, and he knows it's there, but he doesn't he and then there was a time when the shadow was in the driver's seat. He's at a time in his life where it's not in the back seat, but there was a time when it was driving his life, and he was miserable, and he was drug addicted, and so he's slowly over time, and now he deals with it in a really healthy way. He still knows it's there. It's still, Slim Shady. It's still there. He still talks. He talks out of them, but he deals with all these thoughts and things in a healthy way, so they don't actually affect his life. So he's kind of the shining example of how to deal with your shadow in a healthy way.
That's nice. I love that. So do you want to go through the 13? I mean, I just want to pick a few.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's probably, I don't know. There's a lot to go through,
And it's a lot to go through, I think.
time wise,
Yeah.
but I can go through. Let's see if I got them. There's shadow work, a call for inaction. There's surrender to serenity, health is wealth, emotional alchemy, comfort and discomfort, attention to intention, goats over sheep, follow your bliss, rose-colored contacts, intuition versus instinct, the chakra life, and assist leader. So, do any of those stand out to you? Because I don't think I could be here all day if
We
I
don't
talked
have
about all
time for all of
13.
those. I should have been writing down when you were talking about them. Well, we should do the goats over sheep for sure. But there was one earlier that, oh, can you say them again?
All right, so there's shadow work, a call for inaction, the surrender to serenity, health is wealth, emotional alchemy. That's a big one. Comfort and discomfort, attention to intention,
Okay.
and then goes over sheep. And then instinct versus intuition. That's another big one.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about, if we have time, emotional alchemy. I am curious about, I can't even write what I wrote down, comfort um, and
Comfort and
discomfort.
discomfort. Yep.
Yeah, I
Comfort
am
in
curious about
discomfort.
that one. And then we can talk about instinct versus intuition. I've had a few people on talking about intuition, but so let's talk first about emotional alchemy.
Yeah. So that's a big one for sorcery. So emotional alchemy uh, is
Transmutation.
the ancient. Yeah. It's about turning base metals into gold. So steel and these base metals that are very cheap into gold by a magical process. An actual sorcerer can do, but a sorcerer with a U can do emotional alchemy every day, and because I do it. So that is transforming these base emotions into elevated emotions. The basic one is hatred into love. That's the most. But there are small ones, like there are more side ones that I get into, like judgment can be can be alchemized into curiosity. Your judgment of someone
Mhm.
can be turned into, like, what are you, just be curious. Like, don't judge. Like, what happened with this person? Why is this person this way? Why is, like, and that's what helps me not to judge other people, is to really get curious. So, your judgment can be alchemized into that. Your trauma can be alchemized into wisdom. Once you discharge the emotional reaction from trauma, it just turns into wisdom. So then, but the key is to, once you discharge that thought, you get that emotion, then it's like, oh, push that away again. Like, there is a way to process through that and take away that emotional charge that comes from the thought, and then you just get the thought, and then it just turns into wisdom. And something like fear can be turned into, alchemized into fascination. Fear, you kind of think of, what is it like to live, someone that's not living an authentic life, let's say. They're kind of hiding who they are. There's a lot of that with sexuality, and they're kind of hiding who they are, and for fear of, other people. Well, you can take that fear and kind of turn it into fascination. It's like, what would it be like to live free? And that kind of will help people to get through and maybe take those steps. But the whole emotional alchemy thing is, the biggest thing is letting go of those old, forgiveness. Of course, forgiveness is beaten into, in the spiritual community, because it's that important. And the rungs are not in a strict order, but there is an order, and serenity comes before it. And what that is understanding people, the human condition, and how people operate, and that people are just simply programs.
Yeah.
They're just running a program, and they're reflections of the environment that they live and were raised in. And so there's really no need to get angry, or, so there's forgiveness. In forgiveness, there's understanding that the whole human condition was really critical for my next step of forgiveness. And I don't, say these things and not do them. There's people I have to forgive every day. I have to forgive my ex-fiance for just running out and continuing to just, push me out of shit. It's just easier for her to not deal with me, so she just shut me out. And, this is something I have to do daily. Forgiveness isn't just like, I forgive her, it's fine.
Mm.
No, it is something I do every day. I send her love in meditation. I think about him, and these are things I do every day. So I walk the walk. I don't just say, they need to forgive. These are and it's hard. It's hard, but, to have better energy, you have to alchemize those base emotions and turn them into something higher. And amazing things come when you can let go and do that. Really,
Yeah,
it's
and the
very
ones you
good to
listed, I think that, when you catch yourself in it, like if I catch myself in judgment, which we do all the time.
have.
So, I can remember, I can say, "Oh, I'm judging. Okay, what can I alchemize that to? Okay, oh, it's curiosity." And then I can shift. I mean, if you're laying it out in a way so that people could actually remember judgment, curiosity. That's
Yep.
that's what I wanna get to. Once you're at curiosity, you're in a completely different domain, a different
Yep.
dimension,
Oh, it
and
feels,
and
yeah,
you're
it's a complete energetic shift
Yeah,
that,
yeah. It's like
like,
becoming
off
as a
this
child.
person,
Yeah.
off, and then you start, being curious, and then you kind of get into, and like, what has this person gone through? What is, what, imagine, and you start kind of getting into that. Just like, oh, but, I get the energy of, oh, this has happened. And it completely shifts
It
your
shifts
attitude
everything.
and
It
how
it
you deal with
shifts.
that person.
Yeah, and also how you deal with the world. I mean, we can
Oh yeah.
judge the world. We don't like how this is happening or who's doing what or who won what election or whatever. It's like, we don't know as much as we think we know. And once we shift into curiosity, then
Yeah, there's a
everything
lot of
shifts.
acceptance. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
acceptance.
Yeah, and you
I
can
try to
give people grace.
watch my life like a movie. Like, we're kind of invested in the movie, but we always know, like, the movie is going to turn out. Most movies. I try to look at my life as a superhero movie. There's always trials and tribulations. Otherwise, it wouldn't make for a very good movie. And then at
Mhm.
the very end, like, you pull through and things happen. So to have a kind of a non-judgmental, non-reactionary thing to your, like, I just some crappy happens and just go, oh, plot twist, and just move on with my life.
Right, right. The movie may be really long, and
Yeah,
we're
no, our
expecting it to
movies
be
are long. Time isn't
really
real in the
long.
way we think it's real, but it feels
Right.
very real. So it feels like that. But it's if you are not winning, it is not over. I can tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good statement. Okay, like comfort and discomfort. I'm interested in that because most people are wired for comfort and we want to be comfortable. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're walking around in airplane mode because it's
Mhm,
comfortable.
mhm. Yep. Yeah, it's very important to get uncomfortable. It's because if you're just comfortable all the time, a sorcerer knows that the comfort zone is a wonderful place, but nothing ever grows there. So
Uh huh.
it's it's a matter of growth and getting yourself discomfort. There's all kinds of things, interesting things they put in there in nature, but the lobster grows, in a very interesting way because it's a very soft, malleable creature, and then it kind of grows to a certain spot, and then it has a hard shell. So once it grows to a certain spot, it's uncomfortable. So that a point knows that it's time for growth, and it crawls behind a rock so that it doesn't get attacked, sheds the shell, and then grows a new one, and then this process is repeated. If the lobster was an American, it would just get prescribed Xanax and it would never grow.
And
Like
watch
so.
Netflix.
Yeah, it would never grow. So the the feeling of discomfort and that kind of river of there's a river of change and there's an undercurrent of discomfort, and to pass that river, you know freedom and thriving, and there's all kinds of amazing things on the other bank, but like the river of change has an undercurrent of discomfort, and it's just it's necessary to get through it. If you're not doing at least one thing a week where you're kind of scratching your head like, I don't why am I doing this, or other people are kind of questioning you, or and it's just something really uncomfortable, it should be on everyone's mind at least once a week to really do something uncomfortable. Never say no to if someone's asking you to do a speech at bar mitzvah or like a funeral, or like that's really uncomfortable, but you're gonna get rewarded for that, and that counts. So do something uncomfortable once a week, because you're I always like to say I'm try to live my life from like a deathbed perspective. I don't want any what ifs on my deathbed. Like hell to me is me on my deathbed meeting the me that could have been. Like that's hell. So I try to live my life from a deathbed perspective of, you know, the discomfort of discipline is far less than the discomfort that you'll face of not doing it. Discipline is less than pain. Like if you grow and then you emotionally like, I should have done this and I should have, what ifs and regrets, and that is true pain. Discipline and discomfort of discipline is just that, it's discomfortable. Pain comes from just not
Mm.
choosing to do anything.
Did you watch the movie The Yes Man?
I saw it all that. Yeah, I've seen like obviously every movie. It's been
Jim
a while since
Carrey?
I've seen it. Yeah, oh yeah, I know what
Yeah.
it is.
It's a good
um
one about saying yes to everything you're uncomfortable with.
yes, yeah, that's like I need to go back and rewatch that one, because yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably been
it's a
about
good one.
15 years since I've seen that one.
Yeah,
And
it's a
and
good
that's
spiritual
interesting that you
movie.
say that. Yeah, I'll have to go
Yeah.
back and rewatch that one.
Yeah, he goes to some sort of motivational thing, and he's challenged to say yes to in the next week, like, yes to everything. I mean, even, the beggar on the street that asks him for money, the one who wants his car,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
whatever it was, and
it gets
it's
kind of
just so
ridiculous, and
interesting.
that shows that there's a gray area here. Like you
Yeah,
don't need
yeah.
to
Right,
you
there's
don't need to be
discernment. You need to
uncomfortable all the time. People's minds, we just want to place things in boxes of it is or it isn't. And the world is a world of gray, both
yeah.
and yeah, it's important to not go all out, but have a happy medium. But it's just
Yeah, and I
most
think that's
people
what
are.
he learned, but it was
Yep.
I think it took him really going to that edge of saying yes to everything to realizing that, discernment's a part of the whole process too.
Yeah,
You don't have to
big
say yes
time,
to everything.
big
There's a
time. Yeah,
balance, but it is a great movie. It's a great, great movie.
I'll go back and watch it.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so instinct versus intuition.
Yes. So everyone I've meet uses those words interchangeably, and they're not the same thing. So instinct lives in the gut and intuition lives in the heart. And instinct is something that we need. But when we go through a trauma, your instinct gets turned up too high and it starts affecting our everyday lives. So I like to use the example, if you're walking home from work and you see a car coming towards you with a gun hanging out, this is an instinctual moment that you need to give in and react and jump out of the way before something bad happens. But after an event like this happens, if it's not processed properly, your instinct is turned up too high, and you could jump at a bush and every car on the way home, and then you might get home and never want to leave again. And so now your instinct is telling you like danger, 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 when there's really not any danger. So the key is to get into your intuition, and there's intuition training that I get into in the book, and how to create that line with your higher self source. What it's all the same thing. It is the you outside of the simulation. Once you plug into that, you are now a player character, and you are completely in charge of your life, as opposed to these role playing characters that are everywhere. Everywhere. They're everywhere. They're programs, and they're not aware of who and what they are. They have no idea. And so they're just running a program. But once you start getting in touch with this intuition, this higher self, you are now in charge of everything. And you can tell the difference between instinct and intuition, and it starts guiding you, and it's pretty amazing. I have a crazy one that happened as I was finishing the book. I was eating steak and I swallowed a piece, and it kind of got lodged a little bit, but nothing crazy. It normally, an instinctual thing would just be like to just swallow and get that down, like just kind of like just swallow. It didn't go down. Okay, swallow again. But I had this insane intuitional voice that, not audibly but inside, yelled at me to stop. And so I like stopped, and I was like looking around and was like, okay. Like, and it said, one more swallow and you die, because there's no one here that could have given me the Heimlich. I'm here. My dog doesn't have that ability. So it said one more swallow and you die. So, and so now I'm borderline freaking out, but not completely. So it's like, what do I do? Because like in these moments we can panic. And so I was doing a really good job of not panicking. And it walked me through it. It just said, it wasn't completely lodged where I couldn't get any air in. So it just said, like inhale the air around the lodged piece of steak, and then just kind of shoot it out. And it just shot out like, well, 15 feet. So those are the things. It made
You
your
Heimlicked
intuition.
yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was a crazy experience. I was so grateful. But your intuition may not tell you the numbers to winning numbers of the lottery, but it's going to always keep you from bad things happening, either emotionally or physically, to you or your loved ones. And so it's important to know the difference in between these two things that can kind of guide you on your boulevard of illumination.
So, so your instinct you're equating to that gut feeling that responds to stimulus, danger,
Mhm.
danger.
It's a safety thing.
Thinking of
Yeah.
Lost in Space, the robot that way predates you, and then instinct is like your guidance, your higher self, the voice of God, spirit, the source, your higher self that guides you.
Mhm.
Is that your
Yep.
distinction?
Yep.
Or
Gut versus
yeah.
heart. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. And the gut is important,
Oh yeah.
but
No,
it's
it's
probably kind of
you want your instinct. It's the reactionary nature. And sometimes we need to react. These are, there's instances that are, but they're rare. They're rare, especially in today's day and age, like that we need that instinctual immediate reaction. Most of the time intuition can be your guide, but sometimes we need this
yeah.
reactionary part of us. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's not a bad
we're
thing.
not out in the forest and being hunted by animals.
No.
We're
And
not
the
living
bad
in
part
that
is
world anymore.
but we still react and live like we do. So
Mhm, like
even
we
though
do, yeah, yeah.
there's no tiger chasing us, there's no bear. Now we've assigned different. So now the mother-in-law is that tiger, or that the
Yes,
boss at
yeah.
work is now that bear. Like so. And these like, and then we have to see them all the time. So now we're just constantly in this like survival instinctual state, and the body cannot heal itself if it's constantly in that state. You have to like give it time and then let it heal. It's the whole thing with doctors. A doctor will go in. We're very good with acute injuries here in America. They're like the Western world. Like if you have an acute injury, go see a doctor. Chronic, we have no idea what we're doing. If you have a
I
chronic
agree.
problem,
We have
anything
no
called chronic.
idea.
And so, but if you think about like a doctor, if you break your arm, you go to the doctor doesn't do any healing. He sets the bones so that it heals properly. What we
Right.
have to start to learn to do is, emotionally set the bones so that it heals properly. And that's what kind of the whole shamanistic portion of it and the book is about. And it's about, setting the emotional bones so that it starts to heal properly. Otherwise, it never heals and it doesn't heal right. And if you have a broken bone and it doesn't heal right, it's going to give you problems the rest of your life. And it's the same thing. It's just the Western world does it's absolutely no idea. It's all about symptoms it's medications, it's heal your symptom, but it's all these symptoms are just one root cause of spiritual bankruptcy. So it's
Exactly. We're not looking at causes. We're looking at the outer symptom and medicating it.
mhm,
And I like your analogy of setting the emotional bone. I like that, that we do have the capability to heal. I mean, I think our bodies are just designed, they're designed for us.
yeah,
We just abuse the heck out of them. And then we're wondering why it's causing us to do this or that. And we get mad at it. It's all it's doing. All the systems in our body are completely poised to heal and to help us thrive. And it's just amazing that we don't see it that way, that we see it as this thing that is like acting up and we have to apply some external, medicine or chemical or something in order to bring it back to balance. We're just kind of a little off in that way, I think.
yeah, yeah,
And
that's
yeah.
illusionary. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's
It's a
only going to
program.
solve the symptoms. It's like if you go to like if let's say there's a once a month luncheon for 100 people and 90 people of those get violently ill, the Western solution is to just give anti-nausea medication to 90 of those people, as opposed to looking into the root cause, which is the quality
Could
of
be
your
food
food.
poisoning.
Which is
Could be the
obviously if
environment.
90 people are getting violently ill, it's probably the food. So, but like
Or
we
or
just
or the
don't
air conditioning or the chemicals or,
we don't
something.
understand, like it's just like just give people pills and just again,
Right, right.
suppression. Yeah.
Yeah, getting back to your fish in the pond, it's like a fish is in a bowl, and it's just dirty, 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 and we're like, "I wonder why this fish is sick."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the approach. It's just and
Yeah.
it's all about the symptoms. It's never
No
about
one
the
wants to no one wants to change the water. Okay, okay, so that's great, and we've got to do goats over sheep.
Yeah, okay. So,
I
yeah,
love them both. I love both
that's
goats and sheep, so
so that's the term now is thrown around all the time, which is great to see. It's it's an acronym for greatest of all time. But even a goat itself, really is an kind of anti-establishment creature. Like if you think about it, like
it
it doesn't.
is.
You can't control a goat. Like a goat's going to do its own thing. It's a can-eating, non-hurtable creature that's going to be, look at you and try to hurt it, and no, I'm gonna pass. So even the goat itself, even though it's an acronym, like it's just to be more in charge of yourself and think, whereas the sheep are just constantly looking to be led and they're looking for something outside of them to constantly guide them. And most of society is sheep. It's just they like to be told what to do and where to go, and because we're just kind of programs and we don't want to think for ourselves. So we're just constantly listening to other people and other people's opinions and what we should do and what we should do, and just and the whole sheep and goats concept. It's the greatest of all time, like it can be kind of an ego thing and think of yourself, but if you think of yourself as the greatest of all time, you don't need to constantly be bragging about it. That's the difference between kind of goats and sorcerers, right? Like a goat can go to their head, and we see lots of celebrities where there's constantly talking about how awesome they are. Gets kind of obnoxious, but yeah, it's kind of have a humble, quiet, know you're the greatest and go for it. And who the actual greatest is completely irrelevant. That's no one in the NBA. If you're not going in thinking you're the greatest person on the court, you're not going to last very long in the NBA. Everyone thinks that. So whether or
Mhm.
not you're LeBron or Jordan, it doesn't matter. Everyone should have that mindset of
It's an attitude. Yeah,
it
an
is, yeah,
attitude.
yeah. It's an
Yeah.
attitude, but you just don't want it to kind of overtake you and be, too obnoxious about it. I think Walter Payton was a great running back, and he said, when you're good at something, you tell people. When you're great at something, they tell you.
Yeah,
So it's
everybody knows.
it's humbleness. Like cockiness
Yeah,
is something that's shoved, but like confidence you kind of exude.
yeah.
So it's knowing you're the greatest, but not having to tell everyone about it. And certainly it's just, to not, and the important thing is, especially, like the sheep kind of want to go along with the masses, but you have to understand 98% of society will spend 98% of their free time on shit that does not matter. It's garbage. It doesn't matter. So when you're following the masses, you have to understand sometimes the M is silent, right? Like you're following a group of people that have no idea what they're doing, like, so, but
Yeah.
that's the kind of sheep
Well,
thing that's like
yeah,
discernment.
yeah, yeah. Except I think that most people think they know what they're doing,
Well,
and
that's the,
they're
yeah. Well,
yeah, yeah,
I'm following this guy seems like, it happens to us all the
right.
time.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
well, let's
yeah,
just do everything what everyone else is doing, but maybe I mean, it could be sometimes but sometimes it's not, and it's just really important to have that intuitive, instinctual, that connection. That's like, this isn't right. Like your intuition will tell you if, when the moment to be a sheep and when the moment, because you don't want to constantly be bucking everything. And, it's that gray world again. You have to find that happy medium. So it's important to have that connection. It's like, okay, this is the time. There are rules. There are good rules in society, but some are stupid. So it's important to know the difference and
well,
follow.
yeah, and I think that going back to instinct versus intuition, I'm thinking that the sheep consciousness is very instinct. It's a fear based. It's looking for how can I feel comfortable? I feel comfortable in the group. I give up my power to some sort of a leader, a shepherd, the dog, whatever, and they're gonna get me to the right place, which unfortunately usually is a slaughterhouse. So people should keep that in mind. Um,
Yeah,
you
led
know,
to.
right, right. And so the intuition is even if I'm in a huge group and they're all going a certain way, if I'm really plugged into my intuition, it might tell me that I'm being led to the slaughterhouse, in which
Mhm.
case I might stand up and walk the other way. And like you're saying, the goat would do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The goat is a very unhurtable
yeah.
animal, but it
This
has
is
a lot of
really
attitude too. Like it's great that
yeah,
that's that acronym too, but it's also an animal that like really doesn't give a shit what you say. Like it's gonna do its thing, and so it was really appropriate that it's both the acronym and an animal that is
yeah.
really
I
does its
do
own thing.
agree. Yeah. I spent a day at a farm sanctuary, oh, I don't know, a year or so ago, and the goats, I have so many pictures of me with the goats. They're so much fun.
Yeah. You're not
They're
gonna tell what a goat to do. The goat's gonna just look at you and be like, yeah,
right,
I'll
right.
get
Or
right
they're
on
gonna
that.
come up and they're gonna kinda butt you. They're gonna eat your shoes
Yeah,
if they want to.
yeah, they're very
They'll eat the inside of your car.
they're great creatures. Yeah, they're
They're
fun.
real they're really great, and I love the way that they're always kinda looking for higher ground, they're always kinda wanting to climb,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
that's
that's another.
also
I
part of
hadn't
the
thought of that.
acronym.
That's a great thing to add in there
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I think we could keep talking for a while. I've got a couple more questions. One of the things that I think you say is approaching every endeavor and obstacle you encounter with the confidence of a 5-year-old wearing a Superman cape.
Yeah, that's in the Sorcerer's Creed. Yep, that's created these kind of 13 things that's kind of like
Yeah, yeah,
created beliefs that we live by, and that's the last one, and that's one of my favorite ones is to approach every obstacle you encounter with the confidence of a 5-year-old in a Superman cape, because you think about 5-year-old in a Superman cape, and it's just let's go, like, and that idea has motivated me through a lot of things, like, because I just think of that, and I have this list of movie scores that I listen to when I would go on my walks, because your life is a movie. You can turn it in. You can Morgan Freeman your way through your entire life and kind of tell it the direction to go, and it's a movie. So I have this score list of things I go through, that all these movie scores from when I was a kid and adult, and just all these great scores. They're no words. It's just like Indiana Jones and like Star Wars and just all these classic. Dark Knight, and all these amazing like scores, Hans Zimmer and John Williams and Danny
Hans
Elfman,
Zimmer's the best.
these titans of movie scores. The three of them are just amazing. And but the first one on the list is always the John Williams Superman score. And so, in my moments of weakness, like it's that 5-year-old in a Superman cape, and I put that score on, and it's just that those those horns chime in, dun 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 dun. It's just like it just gets me, and it gets me going. And so that idea of the 5-year-old in Superman cape is just that keeps me going. Yeah, it really does.
I get it. I get it. I remember as a child, this is probably a small T trauma, but I remember I was just so confident. I wasn't 5. Well, I might have been like 6. I was so confident that I could fly. I mean, I knew I could fly, and I must have dreamed that I could fly. And I remember talking to my mom about it, and I remember my mom saying, "You can't fly." And I remember that doubt just kind
Yep.
of like it entered my being, and I remember still being adamant I could fly. And what I did, instead of just going off the back porch and proving it to everybody, I, I went downstairs. We had a long hallway, and I was going to just jump and fly. But I thought, you know what? It's right near the laundry room. I'm gonna put all the clean laundry down in the hallway. So just in case I can't fly, I have a good landing. And I think about the psychology of this little 6-year-old going through all of this. I must have dreamed, or in an alternate reality, it was something happened in
Oh
my
yeah.
reality that I believed that I could fly, like Superman. I love Superman. But the world said no, and
Yeah.
I believed it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we have insane capabilities. The whole Jesus walking in water thing, when he was out walking in water and he told Peter he can do it too. And Peter walked in water. Peter's not Jesus, Peter, but he knew like everyone has that potential and
Yeah.
God in them. And it
Yeah.
was only when
But he
his
had doubt.
like when he
Yeah.
realized what he was doing and his faith wavered, and then he dropped in. And it's just we have those abilities, but there's so deeply programmed into us that it's not possible. I'm not going to waste my time trying to walk on water, even though I think that it is technically possible. But there's that belief is just too deep in me to be able to walk on water. But I think we all have that capability. Really do.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the Matrix movies. Speaking of movies
Yeah.
again, do you like those
Oh yeah.
movies?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Matrix plays a
Uh,
big part in the
I
in
love him.
one of
I
the
love him. But,
chapters.
he goes in, another world and learns how to, manipulate the reality of the Matrix so that the
Yeah,
bullets
and
don't hit him.
that's
And
what I believe we're in is a matrix of
right.
sort. It is not like, Matrix is both fact and fiction, whereas it is much like the Matrix, but at the same time, like we're not the other side of the veil is not, scary AI and, like we're being
Yeah, yeah,
side
yeah.
batteries, that it's not, we're not in that kind of
No,
simulation. It is very peaceful on the other side and amazing, but it is a simulation where we're supposed to be getting better at luck. That is what we're supposed to be getting better at. And I have a
yeah.
really the most convincing argument I've ever heard for simulation theories is in the book. So
Well, I have to read that. I did skim it. I will go back and read that because I am really interested in simulation theory. Can you tell us what you're going to be doing as a mystical comedian?
yeah, so I'm hoping like this is the launch. So I really want to at some point be, go on like lecture tours and kind of mix in the meditation with the philosophy, kind of do stand-up philosophy and comedy with mixed pop culture. And a lot of it is it's just you have your 1 year and 5-year plan, and like it's down the road, but like the beginning is this book. People need to know who I am and what I'm about and things like that. So that is, I hope to bring in the mysticism with the comedy and kind of make people laugh, think, and feel. Like that cycle during kind of things, and I've come up with really powerful meditations that I would love to expose people to, that really like with sound and focus. And I just really, so it'd be fun to be able to kind of go on kind of a book tour and things like that and start, get people really into the moment with these intense meditations, and then just kind of take it from there and do comedy, mysticism, and a lot of what's in the book. So that is kind of the down the road plan, and that's what I hope to do. Right now, this year is about creating awareness around the book so that that becomes a possibility. But that's
Well,
definitely there.
Justin, you could easily go from Unity Church to Unity Church to Unity Church. Are you familiar with Unity?
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I've never
one
been to
ordinations.
one, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
that would be
there's an
yeah.
audience there for you. You could go do the Sunday message, like be the quote
That's a good
sermon, the
idea.
message, and do a workshop in the afternoon. You could provide a longer online thing for those people if you want to. I just know that's an open audience. They would love all of it. I'm not
Yeah,
sure you can make a lot of money doing that, but
you got to
there'd be
start
some money
somewhere.
to be
Yeah,
made.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
I'm aware that. I mean, that's just how starting a new thing works. You just don't make a lot of
yeah. I
money
mean
at the
that
beginning. So
for sure that could, I'm happy to help you with that if you're interested. But I think the other thing is, and I do think that just I do think that you can just bring something fresh to comedy. I know you don't want to be in the whole stand-up scene, but there's got to be some place, I don't know, maybe on a cruise or something like that, where you're bringing this kind of comedy,
yeah,
and
because look, it's
also,
hard because people that go to a comedy club like just want comedy. They don't really want to think and feel. They just want to laugh. So, but I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
I can't like not talk
Well,
about
and
these other things. Like
but
so that's
maybe
why I want
that's
to
not
bring it all
true.
together.
Maybe that's just a judgment. Maybe there are people there. Like if I were sitting in a comedy club, I'd be eating all this up. I'd be like, oh my gosh, this guy's got other dimensions to him. So you never know who the audience really
That's
is.
true. That's
Um,
true.
yeah, you never know. Not everyone's on airplane mode,
Yeah.
and it's like I know, like in my world, I try to bring the vegan conversation to a world of meat eaters, but I don't do it very often. I only do it when I think that there's an opening with the audience or the people I'm with, because otherwise it just kind of falls flat. I think it's probably the same thing for you. You're dealing with a world that's expecting a certain kind of comedy,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it's probably you push it a little bit here, and oh, these people are really open to it, and I think you will find your audience. But certainly the Unity Church circuit would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
completely
No, I
open
hadn't
to
thought of
you.
that. Yeah. No, I hadn't thought of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Okay, Justin, what else do you want to tell us before we close? Anything?
Um, the world may be against you, but the universe is for you. I can leave it there. That's all that
I like
matters.
that. I like that. And sorcery with a U, sorcery, not misspelled.
Yeah. 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 Soucry. Yeah, it's on Amazon. Just type in sorcery or my name, Justin Hillshaw. For some reason, if you type in Sorcery 101, the whole title, it autocorrects it and sends you to a book that's apparently about
Oh,
becoming a better wizard. So if you're
oh,
interested in that,
okay.
there's a series of books about becoming a better wizard, but they're not my book. So my book
That
looks like this.
autocorrect.
Yeah. So Justin
Okay.
Hillshaw or just Sorcery. It's on Amazon.
All
And then
right.
if you want a free copy, I have free ebooks I can give out. Again, this is just about awareness. It's not really making money right now. So you can email me or I'm on Telegram, Sorcerer13. So SOUCERER, yeah, 13 at Gmail or on Telegram too, Sorcerer13, just spelled with a U.
Okay, okay. Well, I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes as well. So
Yeah,
I'm real excited about your future. I think you've got a great gig.
I think so
And I
too. Thank
love to
you.
see it. Yeah, I do. I love to see it. So thanks so much for joining us today. This was a really fun conversation and filled with lots of spiritual nuggets. And I think we could probably talk again about some of those great minds and hearts like Jesus and what you really see in him, but maybe we'll have you on again. So thanks for coming on. Yeah, and
Yeah, it was great.
everybody,
Yeah. Yeah,
it
thank
really
you.
was so easy. And everyone, thank you for listening. And I now close the Spiritual Forum.